Did you know the hip joint is the largest weight-bearing joint in the human body, and it is a hub for functional movement? Having strong hip joints and surrounding muscles helps maintain our mobility and our ability to perform activities and just basic day-to-day things. Thankfully, maintaining hip strength and mobility can be achieved through a few exercises performed on a regular basis. I'm Jordan Thompson with The Perfect Workout, and today we're going to dive into why it's so important to have strong hips. Healthy hips are fundamental to many day-to-day activities. The hip joint is where the head of the thigh bone, the femur, meets an indented space in your pelvis. And the hips, this joint supports our body when we're standing. It's also critical to walking, climbing stairs, running, sitting, standing, and bending over. The hips are so important that our strongest muscles, the quads and the glutes, are located around that joint to help move it. Unfortunately, the hip is also a highly susceptible area to wear and tear of life and aging. And they're also a really common site of osteoporosis. In fact, every year, about 3,500 people experience hip fractures in the United States. And when hip fractures occur, that can really lead to loss of independence. Osteoporosis in particular, a condition of low bone density, it's not something you necessarily feel or see. However, when people start to lose bone strength in their 30s, and that rate picks up after age 50, it really attributes to the bones becoming weak and are susceptible to breaking and falling. Because the hip bears so much weight, it's heavily impacted by osteoporosis. And not only is it a really common site of fractures, but it's one of the most severe places to have a fracture. In fact, 1 in 5 older adults actually dies within a year of having a hip fracture, and they lose a lot of mobility and independence for those who actually survive it. But osteoporosis, it's not the only concern for hip health. Arthritis is as well. The leg press and hip abduction are ideal for achieving the goals of adding hip strength and range of motion, but there are at-home exercises you can do that mimic those movements. One of those exercises is called a chair stand. To perform this exercise, you sit in a squat position and stand from a chair. The challenge is to have as low of a chair as possible and to use very slow movement. You start by positioning yourself to sit on the edge of the chair, keep your chest up and look forward, and as you slowly stand, push through your heels and the middle of your feet. As you lower yourself with bent knees, only briefly allow your buttocks to contact the chair before slowly starting upwards again. And you'll repeat this until you achieve muscle success. This exercise targets the same muscle groups as the leg press does, the gluteus maximus and the quadriceps. The next exercise is a standing hip abduction with resistance bands. This mimics the muscles that are used in the machine exercise and has the same name. The standing hip abduction involves standing and holding onto a counter or a chair or really any sturdy surface. Place a resistance band around the outside of your ankles, training one leg at a time. Keep the other leg on the ground and use that for balance. The moving leg moves out to the side as far as possible, then slowly moves back towards the standing leg. Once the moving leg's foot taps the ground, it should slowly move outwards to the side again. Repeat until you achieve muscle success and then switch to train the other leg. All in all, a healthy hip joint is critical. It's the center of basic activities like standing, sitting, and walking. So we have to keep our hip joint healthy. Aging and the wear and tear of life's activities lead to skeletal concerns, which increase the risk of hip pains, swelling, loss of movement, and fractures. To protect your hip joint, you can strength train with exercises involving that area. These hip exercises help improve muscle strength, bone strength, and mobility. The specific exercises that are most important for hip health are the leg press and hip abduction. At-home replacements using resistance bands during the standing hip abduction and performing chair stands are great alternatives. If you'd like to learn more about our method of strength training, then visit us online at theperfectworkout.com.